Welcome back to another instalment in New Zealand Bird of the Week, where today I will be talking about the Lyall's wren, a small bird with an infamous extinction. I hope you enjoy. Lyall's wren were small drab birds that possessed a solid bill and large feet. Like other New Zealand wrens, these large feet helped them in hopping around their respective habitats. It has been noted that except for its feathers and ability to lay eggs, the Lyall's wren on first glance bore more of a resemblance to a mouse than to a bird, scampering around its forested environment, with its short tail and large legs. Some accounts even suggest that the birds were semi-nocturnal. Most interesting about its biology is that the Lyall's wren could not fly. There was no keel present on the breastbone to anchor the flight muscles, and the wings were short, rounded, and the feathers were loose, meaning that they were not airtight. This flightless biology is a very unique trait amongst passerines, as only 5 species were known to be entirely flightless. Unfortunately, all of these birds are now extinct, and this was most definitely down to their unique lifestyle. The path to the extinction of the Lyall's wren was initially paved with the arrival of the Maori. Before their arrival, birds were widespread across the main islands, as its bones can be found in both caves and deposits left by laughing owls, one of the apex predators of the country, meaning that their population must have been sizable. Unfortunately, their diminutive size did them no favours against the introduced Kiore or Polynesian rat, as they swiftly eliminated the mainland population. Despite this mainland extinction, the Lyall's wren managed to survive as a relict population on Stephens Island, north of the South Island, as during the last glaciation, sea levels were lower, meaning that wrens survived on the island separate from their mainland counterparts once the sea levels rose. This island population lived in peace for quite some time after their mainland relatives vanished, but this peace was short-lived. When Europeans first arrived in New Zealand, exploration of Stephens Island proved to be an immense challenge. According to historical records, landing on the island was so treacherous that few, if any people, had ever landed on its shores. Exploration of the island eventually began in the 1870s by New Zealand maritime officials, who were determined that the installation of a lighthouse was necessary to ensure safe passage through nearby channels. By the early 1890s, construction of the lighthouse had begun, with several modest homes being erected on the island for lighthouse keepers and their families to live in. With little company, the lighthouse keepers often brought cats with them to their island outpost. Amateur ornithologist David Lyall was one of these lighthouse keepers, and was eager to study the avifauna of the island, both for his research and to collect specimens for museums. Along with himself, Lyall, like other lighthouse keepers, brought his cat to the island. A cat, whether it belonged to Lyall or not, went by the name of Tibbles and would go on to become iconic in the New Zealand conservation scene, but not for the best of reasons. Tibbles occasionally brought in dead birds, and Lyall's wrens were among them. Lyall had only seen the birds alive in 2 encounters, so having all of these specimens was great for him to study. Lyall sent these specimens to naturalist Walter Buller, who identified them to be a new species. Buller then sent these specimens to bird illustrator John Coolmans, who then made a lithograph plate to accompany the bird's description. The bird's story then took a turn for the worse, as cats began to breed rapidly on the island, and quickly became feral due to their independent nature. In just over a year, Tibbles and her offspring were fully wild, and according to Lyall, were making sad havoc among all the birds. This was stated by Lyall around February of 1895, and by March of the same year, the Christchurch newspaper The Press stated, "There is very good reason to believe that the bird is no longer to be found on the island, and as it is not known to exist anywhere else, it has apparently become quite extinct. This is probably a record performance in the way of extermination," and indeed it was. If any bird survived past this date is unknown, but if any did, they most likely would have been completely wiped out by the end of the year, as an account stated that the island was swarming with cats. Famously, the Lyall's wren was noted to have been wiped out entirely by Tibbles, but this is a misconception. This claim was made by zoologist Walter Rothschild, which, although wrong, became prevalent in the folklore of the animal's extinction, and made the whole ordeal more iconic and extravagant in the process. Eventually, the island became cat-free by 1925, but for the Lyall's wren, it was too little, too late. And with that, I thank you for watching this instalment of New Zealand Bird of the Week. For next time, you now have the chance to vote for the common diving petrel, a bird that looks just like a penguin, if, well, one could actually fly. Until then, I'll see you next time, whenever that may be. See you later.